Jordan Wicks, Justin Steele, Ben Brown, Julian Merriweather, Adbert Alzolay, Yancy Almonte, Luke Little, all with significant injuries. And that's only part of the list, right? There was so many throughout the year. Some of them freak, like you said, but some of them, right? It's this recurring theme in baseball. It's so disappointing when you see a guy like Spencer Strider for the Braves go down, who was going to be just so electric and fun as a baseball fan to watch this year. Some people are saying it's the pitch clock. Some people are saying it's velocity. Some people are saying it's strength and conditioning. Some people are saying it's the amount of days in a row that they're throwing. There's so many different thoughts. You were a player. You were drafted in 2007, right? Was it 2007?
2007, correct.
Yeah. So you've been through now a couple decades in this game and at the professional level. Do you see something either from going from organization to organization or as a player versus as a coach that is different today that you think is the key contributor to this? Or is it just not that simple?
The easy answer is it's not that simple. You brought up a bunch of variables. All of them are valid. And that's the reason why I would say that if you're trying to find like the smoking gun or the silver bullet, you're probably not going to. I think you have to consider all of those variables. This is the current space that we live in. Like it or not, we're going to be graded on our ability to keep guys on the field, not just performing at a high level, but also available. Now, are we ever going to go so risk averse that we have healthy players who don't perform? I don't think that that's a very successful venture either. So you can't just go to only injury prevention because there is this performance dynamic that has to be factored in.
Yeah.
And so what you have to do is constantly evaluate and reevaluate. You identify your processes and evaluate your processes. No matter what, we have the injuries that you listed at the beginning of this question. Like, we have to stare ourselves in the face with those. We have to look at them each individually, see what could have potentially gone wrong, what we could have done better, and really go from there so that we continue to make our processes better. And the reason I talk about processes is because you want to be able to scale these things to your entire organization. If you only have 12 pitchers that you care about, well, if one gets hurt, it's probably not that big of a deal. But if you multiply that out across 5 or 6 rosters, and now your incidence rates are impacting multiple pitchers at multiple levels, that's why I talk about the scale of things. Is if you implement something and it starts to get guys hurt, we have to almost try to reverse engineer it. And so we look at our throwing programs, we look at what resources and tech we could be leveraging to help make better decisions. We look at, fatigue reports. We look at any sort of, assessment, test and retest type of modality that we can be using to get out in front of when a guy may be fatigued and maybe we need to skip his start, or maybe we need to have him take 3 to 4 days off if he's pitching out of the bullpen, to, refresh him and get him right back to, hopefully closer to 100%. And so it's really this all-encompassing thing. And I think you'll see it generated as workload, but there's going to be a ton of variables that go into workload and how you can keep guys fresh and how you can keep guys out of harm's way.
Awesome. I will accept the unsimplified answer of that because I think you're right. I mean, it's frustrating as a fan. Just, you think about, you and I are the same age. So like thinking about when we were fans and you could rely on Randy Johnson, the Kurt Schillings, the Greg Maddoxes, the Tom Glavines who out there and give you 200 innings every single year. And it's just a different age of baseball, and trying to figure that out, I think, is important for the game. I think it is important for us to get to a place where it's like, hey, you can expect this player, this pitcher to be reliable again. But also, and I'll just ask this question really quick. I don't know if requiring pitchers to throw 6 innings like the league is talking about is the answer either. What do you think about that potential rule coming out?
That's a tough one for me. I think you're starting to dip your toes in telling a manager how he has to win a game. And I don't know that you necessarily want that to be rolled out universally. I think the way that Craig Counsell is going to navigate a game is going to be different than Ross and different than a Terry Francona and different across the league. I think everybody's using information to drive decisions, but they're going to leverage different sets of information to make those decisions. And there's going to be times where it's advantageous for you to pull your starter before 6 innings. And there's going to be times where it's advantageous to ride your starter. And I don't think that decision should be made for us. I think we should be allowed to make that decision on our own. And I think like in general, it's a good thing for us to be considering options to keep guys healthy. Like how can we do something league wide to prevent injuries? Okay, great. I don't think mandates is the way you go. If you want my honest opinion, like an off day every week probably yields more fruit than going to a mandatory starting pitcher has to throw 6 innings if we're trying to prevent relievers from throwing, 3 days in a row, so on and so forth. I just think there's other avenues, and I think we should probably consider a lot of them and the feasibility of them. Like some are going to be more feasible than others, some are going to be more effective than others, but we should be doing these types of analysis to decide like what is the most bang for our buck. Is it an extra bullpen spot or an extra pitcher spot on a roster? I don't know, but it's also something we should consider. I know owners would probably cringe at that because that's another salary that they have to account for. But at the same time, like the league should also adjust with that and change what your competitive balance tax thresholds are if there's an extra roster spot. But I just think we're at this era where, okay, we've added the pitch clock. That is a constraint. It's a real thing. The 15 seconds in between pitches is a little bit short when you consider like the ideal time for recovery in between an explosive movement. And so no matter what, that's there. It's not going anywhere. Now, I hope they don't shorten it anymore because then you're really starting to dip your toes in, an area where I think you can really talk about fatigue and recovery. And we need to make sure that we're not just going so much towards the shortening of games that we're sacrificing the health of players. But what we need to do is start training differently. Okay, if we're getting 15 seconds in between pitches, then we probably need to do some things in the off season that foster speedier recovery. Can we push some intensity in an interval training in our off-season training modalities to better acclimate and create adaptation within the human body to be able to handle that pitch clock? I think that's something we can do. Can we get into some like more interval type sprint work so that guys, aerobic capacity or anaerobic capacity is improved and increased? Like that's something that I would be open to, that like we probably need to take upon ourselves to maybe implement.
Yeah, well, just like players have to make adjustments, I think when the league makes adjustments, it then forces you guys as coaches to have to make adjustments for the players as well. I thought Craig had a really good idea early in the season. I want to say it was in the Boston series on ESPN. He talked about how it would be great if every Monday for the first 2 months of the season, everyone in the league had an off day. And that was the designed off day for at least like kind of starting the season to kind of get like into the groove and not have to play 15 games in a row in 15 days right out of spring training. I thought that was one of the potential ideas. And I think this is a good time to bring up a fan question. Ty Daniels on YouTube said, what effect will review of balls and strikes have on the way that pitchers pitch when it is finally implemented? And do you want it implemented?
So I want it implemented when it's ready. I don't love the like forced issue and feeling like there's this timeline that it has to be done by. I want the technology to be there. I don't want it to tarnish our game. I don't want it to create this space or this place where it's like humans versus robots. And, you're seeing some of the effects of that at the AAA level where they do have the automated zone. You're seeing pitchers' walk rates increase because it's missing pitches at the top of the zone. There's like this blind spot for it. And I know there's limitations between, what the automated zone can do. And the biggest struggle right now is being able to adjust for batter height from batter to batter. I know they've tested different options. I know that they haven't really made a ton of headway on what the most successful version is. I do think they'll have to do something with the review of balls and strikes. I don't know what those numbers will be, how many challenges you get a game. And we'll get to a point once it's implemented that, what happens when the outcome of a game is determined by a strike review, that one's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a
Yeah.
tough one to swallow. There's going to be questions asked on MLB tonight and Sports Center after that game. And, it's going to stir up, I'm sure, a whole roundtable discussion on, is this the best thing for baseball, which ultimately we don't know yet. I think you want what's best for baseball, but I don't know the answer to that just yet. If we can get the technology to a better place, then I think we have a chance. There's also I think we need to consider some hybrid models. If the automated zone struggles with the north-south game calling, and specifically the north, then maybe we just have umpires call the height of pitches and we use the automated zone for side to side.
Mm,
I think the automated zone can do a pretty decent job of deciphering the width of the plate. And if we can take something off of the umpire's plate and just have them focus on the north-south part of the zone, we might end up in a better place than a full automation or no automation at all. So, that's just, I think we have to consider all options when we're trying to generate the best product and the most impactful product possible.